This is episode 57 of the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast with Phil White.
It is touting above all things personalized coaching. And the implication is that a traditional coach like yourself or like Brian or like Kelly has no value because you can replace their knowledge and their expertise with a device, and a consumer level device at that. So for $200 or $300, you can get this thing on your wrist, and it's going to replace anything and everything a coach could offer. And that is a very dangerous path to tread.
Welcome to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals. I am your host, Josh Trent, and this is your number one trusted resource for the accelerating world of fitness technology. Each week, we bring you an expert interview with a global influencer at the crossroads of fitness and technology. You'll gain the insights, tools, and inspiration you need to stay connected to the pulse of what matters most for your fitness business in the age of exponential technologies. For episode 57, we're exploring the dynamic world of sports science at the crossroads of technology with Emmy Award-winning writer and the author of Unplugged, Phil White. In this show, we're talking about the connections between mindfulness and technology when it comes to breathing, eating, moving, sleeping, and exercising in and outside of the club, including the relationship of fitness facilities and devices. We also learn from Phil about the importance of what he calls having a white belt mentality when it comes to both fitness and technology, why he believes that tech's best use case in fitness is to identify a movement fault that is potentially harmful to a client, know what the correct solution is, and have the client implement that solution. For successful coaches and trainers, we also uncover why fitness tech must only be a tool in a professional's toolbox to help inform, educate, and increase self-awareness to get a client to a place where they are actually independent and no longer need any technology. So when it comes to sports science being fueled by technology, what are the real game changers? The most important aspects of consciously applied devices and software that truly support and uplift the human, inside and outside of the four walls of the facility? The answer to that question and much more takeaways for club owners, operators, and fitness professionals in this episode with Phil White. Phil White is an Emmy-nominated writer who frequently contributes to The Inertia, Sup the Mag, and Canoe and Kayak. He's the co-author with Dr. Kelly Starrett of the forthcoming books Flight Plan and Waterman 2.0, and is also collaborating on Game Changer with University of Michigan football performance director Dr. Fergus Connolly, and Bridging the Gap with Sue Falsone, the first female athletic head trainer in Major League Sports. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on today.
So we're going to talk about two things today, the 6 laws of winning. We'll also dive into your books, Game Changer, Unplugged, but there's a lot of info about you, Phil. People have been hearing about you in fitness for, I want to say the past 3 to 5 years specifically. What is something that you have not talked about on a podcast yet that's top of mind for you? In other words, is there anything that you really feel energized about right now as we move into 2018?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just outside of the general excitement day to day of getting to work with the absolute best in this industry, from Kelly Starrett, who kindly set up all these other relationships for me and just really welcomed me into that brotherhood. And and working with Brian McKenzie, Andy Galpin, Fergus Connolly, Dr. Frank Merritt, my co-author on the forthcoming book, The 17-Hour Fast, which is shameless plug alert, up for pre-order now on Amazon, and will be out in March, and really Frank's actually an emergency room physician down in Florida by day and kind of a self-trained exercise physiologist by night. And so anyone that's read my book Unplugged will have seen some of his pearls of wisdom. So I'm super excited to give people a true minimum effective dose for fasting that is scientifically based. Yeah, right now I'm just really excited to get that book out to people and to share Dr. Frank's wisdom with the masses.
So you're involved in many books, Game Changer with Dr. Fergus. How did this occur? I mean, did you just wake up one morning based on your friendship, relationship? How did you even get into being such a powerful contributor to books across the health and fitness industry?
Well, I don't know. I'm just a rod or a staff in their hands. It's like Moses in the Old Testament or something. But it's really. Again, it was Dr. Kelly Starrett, and so most people know him as obviously the founder of Mobility WOD, and then creator of books like Deskbound and Becoming a Supple Leopard, Ready to Run, and so Kelly just has really opened up his life and his circle of friends to me. And so one day I get a text saying, just had lunch with my buddies from the 49ers. One of them wants to write a book, told him you can help. And within a week and a half, Fergus and I had agreed to partner on this book. And we had a contract with Victory Belt, who is also Kelly's publisher and our publisher for Unplugged. Fergus is the only performance specialist to have worked across every major field and court sport in the world, and also in military units like the SAS in the UK and some of the folks, special operators here in the US. Yeah, we set out to try to distill this 20-year career into a set of laws, a set of principles that whether you're coaching your kids' soccer, I have two boys, 8 and 10, that level, or it's a youth elite traveling team, or it's a professional organization, or a small college, a big college, anything in between. And then we also, there's some principles and laws in there that we feel also apply just to daily life and to business people, to mums and dads as well. And so that was 193,000 words later. I guess we didn't distill it too much. But
Well, Sports Illustrated published an article just a few months back regarding Game Changer, and it was a question: does investing in sports science actually result in more wins? Who's this book for? I mean, we have a lot of club owners, a lot of fitness pros that are listening. We'll talk about the 6 laws of winning in just a little bit in the show, but why this book now? What's the timing of this? Who's this book for?
Yeah. I mean, at the elite college end, I think there are 18 college athletic programs where the AD has over $100 million in his or her budget to spend in any given year. And if you look at the ticket revenue of somewhere like Michigan, where they're packing, what is the average there, 112,000 people into the big house every weekend, or, you look at Texas, you look at Jimbo Fisher and Nick Saban, their programs, and then that's just football. Then you look at college basketball. I mean, this is very big business.
Yeah.
And as the lawsuits recently with Ed O'Bannon and the NCAA show, there's a lot of controversy around the future role of the NCAA and college athletics in general. Should we be paying these kids? Is it enough to put them through school for free or on a partial scholarship? What does that social contract look like? What obligations should coaches have to these student athletes? And then beyond student athletes and the college athletics world, there is more technology than ever before in sports. And we really just feel like that it's not enough to have quantitative analysis unless you are putting it into context. And so if you are looking at outcomes, and really what Fergus has developed is a model to use the lens of the game itself and then work backwards from game day. We were initially going to call the book Game Day, and really work back from there to identify how to maximize dominant qualities. So for a Cam Newton, that would be his, some of his physical qualities, or maybe for someone like Tom Brady, it would be technical or tactical or psychological. And so really just to recognize that with all this technology, without context, it doesn't mean a darn thing. And also that there is a lot more going on in any game or any moment in life than just physical elements.
Wow, Phil, I love how you mentioned quantitative versus context because, whether it's a Fitbit or an Oura Ring or a training platform, whatever it is, we know there's value, but there has to be the right context. I mean, any tool is only as valuable as the environment you're using the tool in. How have you studied this quantitative versus context? I know you wrote the other book with Dr. Andy Galpin and Brian McKenzie, Unplugged. We'll link that in the show notes. This exploration between quantifying our lives, quantifying data bits, and then actually the context of the environment, how that's shaping us, the athlete, even the fitness pro. Can you contrast this quantitative versus the contextual for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll preface it by saying that recently I saw an ad, and in the course of writing this book, Brian and I would send each other links to websites for some of the leading fitness tracking companies or ads, pictures of ads we could see. It is touting above all things personalized coaching. And the implication is that a traditional coach like yourself or like Brian or like Kelly has no value because you can replace their knowledge and their expertise with a device, and a consumer level device at that. So for $200 or $300, you can get this thing on your wrist, and it's going to replace anything and everything a coach could offer. And that is a very dangerous path to tread, Because if you look at Michael Phelps, without Bob Bowman, Michael Phelps is not Michael Phelps. Okay, if you look at a sprinter like Andre DeGrasse, we've got a Usain Bolt size void now in sprinting, and someone like Andre is kind of primed to take that mantle, perhaps. You do not have an Andre DeGrasse without a Stuart McMillan. And even then, going down the chain, none of these athletes, whether it be a Rich Froning in CrossFit or it's, pick any name that in sports, all of them have not just one coach, but a coaching team, and they have physiotherapists, they have massage therapists, they have, nutritionists, specialists in their field.
It takes a village. Yeah,
it does take a village. And even just on the day-to-day level, if you are a coach that owns and operates a gym, or you have been in the coaching industry for a while, maybe you work at several gyms or several training studios, you have amassed knowledge. And the app Coach's Eye is a very good app, but in the book, we give an example of how your own coaching eye needs to be used to really make people independent of technology, to not rely on technology for personal coaching.
That is such a great point, Phil, that you mentioned about Coach's Eye. We talked about that earlier last year on this show, and you've actually been quoted on other podcasts, other interviews. You talked about the training aspect, rate of perceived exertion, RPE, versus MEPS or HRV, or some kind of quantitative points. For the coaches listening, can you contrast these two? I think it's interesting when we talk about intuition here, which is something that you're well versed on. Rate of perceived exertion, what is that? And then please contrast that with the quantitative.
Sure. So at a basic level, RPE, you could give 0 to 10. So 0 would be, I've got this little, this Jill Miller yoga tune-up ball under my foot right now. I'm doing a little foot mobility while we're talking. That would be, a 0 or maybe a 1 on the exertion scale. 10 would be you would go up the train with Stu McMillan for couple of hours and he's got you running 50 or 100 meter intervals, or go down and train with Steve Magnus and have him put you through your paces, and you're going all out. You can't hold a conversation. And so comparing heart rate zone training to RPE, so say on a hard day, if you go and get out on your concept 2 and you say, all right, I'm going to do 10 times 1 minute with 1 minute rest, right? That's a pretty typical rowing interval workout. And I'm going to go really freaking hard today. Okay. So I'm going to, an 8 or 9. Well, you go out and you do it, and you don't need your technology to do that. Okay. The next day, I'm just going to tell you, I want you to go and do a 20-minute recovery row. I want you to be able to go at a rate where you're working a little bit, but you could hold a conversation with me if I'm next to you. You can go out and you can do that, and you do not need a fitness tracker. You could turn the monitor down on your concept 2. You don't even need to look at it. And you would get very similar results, kind of extrapolating what Dr. Galpin and his colleagues found with that. And the fact of the matter is, Josh, that we are all human tuning forks. We are designed with this inbuilt intuition. And you do not need a Bluetooth-enabled drinking cup to tell you when to drink water. And yet that product exists on the market today. You do not need a product to tell you when you are tired and when you should go to sleep. Neither do you need a fitness tracker to tell you the quality of your sleep. Okay, you do not need that. And if you are doing that, I would encourage you, particularly the sleep tracking. If you wake up and your little wrist-worn device gives you a 96 out of 100 for your sleep score, and you feel trashed, you haven't recovered from yesterday's session, maybe you've got a newborn baby in the house, whatever it might be, whatever stresses may be going on, and what you are feeling, you need to go back to bed for a couple hours if you could, but you can't because you've got to go to work, and that tracker is reading a 96. The tracker is wrong. It's inaccurate. And conversely, if you get a 62 on your sleep score out of 100 and you feel terrific, you feel fully rested, you're not crazy sore, and you feel like you could go out and run a marathon, well, again, the tracker is wrong. Now, if it syncs up, and what I'm suggesting here is you just say do your sleep tracking, maybe journal this for a month. Just literally, how do I feel today? Great or terrible? What is my score? And then at the end of the month, look at how many days the score is close to how you're feeling. just subjectively, just based on your self-awareness, and how many days is it in fact the opposite, where there is very little correlation. And if it's working, great, keep using it. But if it's wrong, you might want to rethink whether that's adding anything to your life or not. And then I would go through every technology that you do and run a similar analysis. And also ask someone in your life that's important to you to speak truth into your life about whether they feel technology has been additive or is in fact deleterious.
Wow, this is such a good point, man, because I look at the way you see technology through a lens of intuition, but also what the market is wanting, what the market is demanding. We see a lot of coaches right now that are interested in using wearables and virtual coaching. And I think in the right context, we're talking about quantitative versus contextual. There is the place for technology. It's not like you're anti-technology. You're pro-technology, but right. Conscious technology, the way to apply it where there's actually a connection between the coach, the athlete, the human, and their better wellness journey. Give us a few contexts where we can use technology in this healthy way.
If you're the coach and you have an athlete come in and they are rounding their back in their squat, okay, that pelvis is starting to reverse and tuck under a little bit at a certain depth, and it's happening, way too early, and that's going to be a problem. That could be a problem with a PVC pipe. You start putting weight on the bar, particularly significant weight, that's going to be a problem rather than later. Like, that's going to work just great until the day that it doesn't. And so what you could do there is you could use an app like Coach's Eye to record the movement and then show them, side by side, like this is the the vector lines and stuff some of these things have on them, to show them what a correct bar path looks like. And then just really for this specific problem, this is the spot where your pelvis starts to reverse, your back starts to round, and let them know you're not going to be able to do that forever. There's going to be a consequence there, and it's not going to be good. And so now I'm going to have you go back, and I'm going to have you do the same squat, and I would do this unweighted. We want to fix the problem, either an air squat or, say you were doing a back squat, put a PVC pipe across the shoulders, have them do it. Now, I'm going to tell you now, let's put the technology aside. I'm going to tell you when you start to round. Oh, there it is. I'm going to tell you to stop, say, when you get there. Stop. Okay. Do it again. Stop. Okay. Now you're going to have them pause for a minute, let them process this, and then explain to them. It's right when you get to, whatever depth it is and whatever analogy you want to give there to help cue them a little bit. And they do it, maybe the first time, whoa, no, you're starting around again. What do you think went wrong? And now this may sound laborious, okay? And it may sound like you're just repeating yourself or,
yeah,
you're laboring the point. But really what you're doing here is you're getting them to the point where they can identify a movement fault that is potentially harmful, know what the correct solution or potential solutions are, and have them implement that solution. And you use technology as a tool in your toolbox to help inform and educate and increase self-awareness. And then you got them to a place where they are independent and they no longer need to rely on the technology.
We have so many platforms and devices out there. It's not about how many you have. It's about maybe a handful that are really conscious and powerful. And you talked about this in the book, Game Changer, the 6 laws of winning. The first law is the law of knowledge. But the second law, the law of human superiority, you mentioned humans are more important than technology. As I've said elsewhere, this is a people business. For all the hype about new tech and the millions that teams spend on all the latest and supposedly greatest equipment, team sports is still at its core a people business and always will be. Can you talk about these 6 laws? Let's dive into number 2, the law of human superiority.
Even at a business level, your people are your biggest asset in any business, whether everything from government to nonprofit to for-profit and everywhere in between. So somebody in marketing, say, might be super excited that they invested all this money in a tool like HubSpot, right? Well, HubSpot is a great team, or maybe you move to, Dropbox Business, whatever it might be. But without the human knowledge to know, how do we prioritize marketing projects at this organization? And then once we've prioritized them, how do we decide how much time it takes our writers, our graphic designers, our copy editors for each task on this list? And then are these people self-motivated enough to go away and execute and stick to the deadlines that we have outlined? That's a very simple way to design, marketing programs, for example. Well, without the resources, the talented graphic designer, the creative director, the copywriter, the copy editor, that new tool that your business just spent 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand on doesn't mean a darn thing. You need to make sure first that you have quality creative professionals within your marketing team. Or in sales, Salesforce is a big one and a good one. And I know a lot of people that work at companies that use Salesforce. But if you could go out and drop $1 million on a sales system, we need to do a better job of keeping our people accountable. We need to know when they called, who they called, if it isn't in Salesforce or what have you, it doesn't exist, that kind of thing. My buddy who's a sales director says that kind of thing all the time. But do you have quality salespeople that know what relationships look like and how to not only get customers, but keep them by taking good care of them and not just trying to sell them more stuff, but really looking out for what's best for their business? Without the emotional intelligence within each one of those salespeople, and you building a good team and you keeping the camaraderie up and morale to retain these people and make sure they're doing right by your clients. Sorry, but that new sales system, for all its bells and whistles, is absolutely worthless.
The law of individualization, too. There's the law of individualization. Highly effective winners cannot be mass produced in a short training cycle. We apply maybe this model in high-level collegiate athletics that you're writing about, but also we see the same kind of mindset sometimes in the gym, Phil, where people want to lose a bunch of weight or we want to jump on this new tech platform and get results in 30 days. It's just not like that. I mean, we can't mass produce long-term effective results in short training cycles. Why did you write about this law of individualization?
Unfortunately, there's this mindset that we can get a quick fix. So we can take a pill that's going to shred us. We're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days, kind of like the example you said. Or you can put on 10 pounds of muscle mass in 3 weeks with this Is that possible? Yes. But as Gray Cook has said to me many times over the years, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And another thing that Gray always says about any activity is this activity giving you more than it's taking out of you? And really, then we can tie that into essentialism with regard to Pavel and Brett Jones and Craig at Strong First. And Pavel's book Simple and Sinister is still a classic. And one of the reasons is because what he says about if you did a certain number of kettlebell get-ups and kettlebell swings every day, and you did this literally every day, just 15, 20 minutes, when a buddy calls you and says, mate, I'm moving house next month, can you come and help? You're going to be good. If you're an older person, you're going to be able to get down in a deep squat with your grandson, like my son, my 8-year-old is down in a deep squat 3 or 4 hours a day playing with Legos, and I want to be able to get down there with him and play with him. So whatever age you are, you're going to be able to move through life, and it's going to give you 80% or more of what a more complex program is. But what Pavel is talking about is mastery, which is the exact opposite of hacks and shortcuts. And there are no sustainable hacks. There just aren't. And so really what Fergus is advocating for here in this section of the book, and what we talk about in Unplugged and everything that Gray and Kelly and Brian have spent their whole careers preaching, is can you get to the end result quicker? You lose that 30 pounds, put on that 10 pounds of muscle. Yes. Is it going to be sustainable? No, it isn't. And so really, the pursuit of mastery, discipline, which means becoming a disciple to something or somebody who knows more than you, having what Brian calls a white belt mentality, where you, even at his level, like the absolute apex of your profession that he is at, and the other people we've mentioned today are at, that you are humble enough where you will go and seek out, say, a Nick Gill in rugby or a Tim DiFrancesco in basketball and recognize I've got something to learn from these guys, and heaven forbid, I might actually be wrong. And some of my presuppositions might be wrong, and surrounding yourself by other coaches that will challenge your assumptions. And as Gray would say, not let you believe your own BS. There's no app for that.
Obviously, we don't have time to go into depth of all the 6 laws. The other 4 are in your book, which we'll link in the show notes. There's a section of the show where we ask you 6 fast questions. That is right now. The first question is, what information do you see missing from the fitness training paradigm? In other words, is there one thing that you think more fitness trainers should know?
the basics of breath work and what Brian McKenzie is doing with Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is a neuroscientist at Stanford. And you can find this with Art of Breath. It's on the powerspeedendurance.com website. And again, this is not because Brian's my friend, which he is, or my co-author, which he is, but because if you did nothing else with your athletes other than educate yourself on the basics of breath work and then have them do some very, very simple breath protocols, which are available for free on Brian's website, you will not only improve their performance and recovery, but you will improve their life. And we've seen this with military veterans that have come back from Iraq and Afghanistan with TBIs and PTSD. We have seen this with friends who have been in car crashes, with another friend who it was suffering from Bell's palsy and was able to help recover through this, with other friends who have dealt with chronic stress and anxiety their entire lives and for the first time are getting consistently good sleep. And literally in 5 to 10 minutes a day of conscious, focused, intentional breath work, you can completely change your physical, cognitive, and emotional state. And so that, I mean, we need to get on the, as Mark Divine would say, we need to get on the other side of complexity and see what's on the other side. And what is on the other side is simplicity. And so learning how to train your lungs with some simple breathwork protocols, and learning how to train your liver by making yourself a bit more resilient, so you're not having to top off with simple sugars and carbohydrates every couple hours.
That is such a large answer too, Phil. You gave such a great answer, especially for a speed round. That was like a 2-minute answer for a speed round question. But I'm thinking about the way that people I want the information. How do I find the right information? You've written so many books and contributed to so many books. How do you personally go out there and get the trusted information when we look at both fitness and tech?
We talk to people that know more than us. So in the breathwork realm, we talk to Patrick McKeown and Leo Daniel Ryan. In the Vitico world, well, then we're not, tied to any one system. So we'll go out and we'll talk to guys like Casper Van der Meulen and Wim Hof in that area of breathwork. And then also, we'll talk to Stephen Kotler and Jamie Wheel about, who wrote Stealing Fire, and I've recommended that book so many times to folks over the years, or even The Rise of Superman, Stephen's book about flow states. And so we will go to the leading experts, and these are true experts. These are not people that look good in gym mirror selfies and so have a lot of followers on Instagram. That doesn't
right.
The limelight counts for nothing. We go to the most credible sources. If we're talking about something like ketones, well, we would go to a Dom D'Agostino and Brian would have a conversation with him. Or, Andy would look to another scientist at a respected university to talk about an area that he doesn't fully understand. And so the difference between a self-professed authority, which is those people on Instagram with big followings who look good in gym mirrors, versus a true expert who has proven credentials and proven experience. In running, go talk to Steve Magnus, go talk to Stu McMillan, some of these guys. In the mobility space, talk to a Kelly Starrett, talk to a Gray Cook. They're really just seeking out the best of the best and being unscared, unafraid of every assumption you have being shaken to its foundation, having to hold up your hand and admit you were wrong and evolve your thinking.
When we look at the nutrition and apps, is there an app that you think could be used consciously when we look at nutrient tracking?
No, I don't think so. I think you need to go to someone like John Berardi at Precision Nutrition and go through one of their programs. I don't think there's a substitute for anything like that.
The book Game Changer, you talked about all these laws in that book and how we can apply that not just in sports, but also in business, in the fitness industry. What do you think is changing the game right now when we see wellness and fitness technology?
I think just coaches that are majoring in the majors. We're concerned about these minor speed bumps. We read about marginal gains and what, British Cycling's doing, or Team Sky, or what have you. Or we try to look at these funny new unbalanced platforms that LeBron James is using before games to do something or other with his balance or his proprioception, and we think that applies to us. But yet our nutrition is in the toilet, our sleep is in the toilet, we're missing massive ranges of motion in our mobility. We have no idea that we're stuck in a dysfunctional breathing pattern. during the day and at night, and it's robbing us and it's costing us. So majoring in the majors and making sure that you're trying to remove some of these major roadblocks for your athletes, then we can talk about appropriate use of technology, and then we can talk about the minors and marginal gains.
What is a belief that you've changed in the past 5 years? Maybe something big where you really put a lot of confidence in a belief around fitness or technology or wellness, just anything that's evolved or related to our health that you've let go of. Has there been a belief that you've let go of that you used to cling to?
Yeah, I used to be stuck in a very false mindset with regard to technology that I had to have my old I think it's second generation iPad. It weighs like 17 pounds or something. You could probably kill someone with it if you threw it at them. This big old brick of a thing that it holds a charge for maybe one workout. I used to think I couldn't get through a hard rowing interval workout or a lifting session without having that blaring some loud electronic music. And I conditioned myself for that. And I also had conditioned myself that if I didn't get that handful of almonds and that apple or banana, say 30 to 45 minutes before, and if I wasn't chasing a workout with a protein shake, your 20 grams complete protein within 20 minutes or 30 grams within 30 minutes, the window's going to slam shut on my fingers. I'm not going to be able to recover. What am I even doing here? And those beliefs proved to be very false when some people like Dr. Frank Merritt and like Brian McKenzie spoke some truth into my life and challenged me to just try doing it a bit differently. And I found that I could, in fact, get through that workout. And when the batteries ran out in my Concept 2 rowing machine monitor that I had actually had face down for quite a while, that I didn't need to replace them because I could gauge my effort with simple RPE and some of the examples we talked about earlier. We get into these self-delusional patterns, and it takes submitting yourself to the discipline of a master that knows more than you, and being humble enough to learn from them and examine the possibility that you're wrong, and then just make habit changes around those false beliefs.
And you talk about this in the book, Humility. That's also some information around those 6 laws. Last question, Phil. What is possible for both trainers, coaches, or really anyone working in the fitness space when we look at technology and betterment of the global health epidemics? Obesity has surpassed 70%. Weight gain is an issue that's probably top of mind for most people, not just in our country, but in the world. What do you see possible with technology and with the betterment of global health?
So I think just using it in a very intentional and purposeful way. And again, looking at the goal that you want to achieve in your life. And then in whatever realm that is it cognitive? Is it spiritual? Is it physical? And then working backwards from whatever game day means to you with that goal to see what numbers might affect it in some way, and actually getting an experienced coach to help you figure that out might be a good idea, because you may think, well, this is tied to this outcome, and it isn't. So, and then just really figuring out what the least number of metrics are that you need to collect and how those need to change to get you closer to the goal. And again, there is no substitute for having a coach who knows how to use technology as a valuable tool, but do it, with the correct boundaries, do it intentionally, and cut out all the clutter, and really do that within the context of outcomes and quality.
Phil, thanks so much for this conversation. We explored some great things beyond just the 6 laws of winning, but also my favorite, this quantitative versus the contextual. So I know you've sparked a lot more interest for people that are listening. And if they want to learn more, where can they learn more about Phil White? And leave us one parting piece of guidance of how we can use technology mindfully in our industry.
Sure. So, first port of call, I would say just check out the websites of all the folks I mentioned. Check them out on social media, because they've got a lot more insightful things to say than I have. I'm just a tool. I'm just a servant for them to get their thoughts onto the page. But then if, I'd love to have a conversation with everyone, just fill out a contact form on my website, philwhitebooks.com, ironically, on most of the major social platforms /PhilWhiteBooks. So yeah, just reach out. Love to have a chat with anybody. And I think really just, again, major in the majors. Look at prioritize again, your family relationships, and look at some of the boundaries around them, not just with technology, but with your work. And then start exploring, overall, try to see if you can hit some of those archetypes that Kelly Starrett has set out. Basically, fundamental human positions that you should be able to get into. And if you haven't, well, you might want to look on mobilitywod.com how to correct those. Then start looking at your sleep. Are you sleeping at least 7 hours a night and getting good quality sleep? And if not, we'll check out a book like Chris Winter's book on sleep, or the book, The Sleep Evolution, and clean up your sleep hygiene. Are you following the 80-20 rule with nutrition? Is 80% of your nutrition coming from whole, natural foods? And then the 20%, that little quarter of a cup of ice cream or whatever you might want to do, or that birthday dessert you like your wife or your husband to make you for your birthday, that's not going to sink you. But if that dessert is your 80 and the good stuff's the 20, well, you might want to think about trying to reverse that. And then, just really, are you aware of how you're breathing and how the state that you want to be in correlates with that breathing pattern? And if not, you might want to go and do a little research just on the basics of breathing and find some protocols. So again, major in the majors, don't major in the minors, and don't let any number become the be all and end all, because it isn't.
Phil White, great exploration of technology, game-changing, and the laws of winning. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Oh, well, thank you for letting me ramble. Appreciate it.
Emotional intelligence is becoming a more valuable skill set every day in a world of fitness technology and in a growing dependency for some coaches where they may fall into too much of a focus on the actual device rather than cueing their client for movement and behavior. Phil believes that with the right amount of mindfulness, fitness pros and coaches can use fitness tech as a tool for cueing, learning, and sensing instead of using it as a taskmaster that stresses them out. Understanding the 6 laws of winning in the fitness industry and in athletics, when we contrast the book Game Changer and look at the segment of human superiority, Phil believes that fitness and coaching has always been and will continue to always be a truly shoulder-to-shoulder personal endeavor. While technology can support behaviors virtually, along with concierge coaching, the most important piece to truly have in your facility and in the client entering a relationship with a trainer to be a win is a focus on human superiority in contrast to the tech. Phil believes that we all must major in the majors. In order for health club members and personal training clients to achieve the real transformation they're paying for, the law of individualization states that highly effective winners can't be mass-produced in a short training cycle. And in that same regard, no matter where our industry rides this wave of exponential tech in 2018, what's most important is that we always remember the basics: the eating, moving, sleeping, breathing, and human connection that must be uplifted by the technology we use. And in this world of distraction, the fitness industry has an incredible responsibility on its shoulders to give our millions of members worldwide a trusted space to practice those basics and never forget, no matter how much tech grows, to keep the human as the master rather than the servant. Thank you for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. Here's a quick message from Brian O'Rourke.
Hello, everyone. This is Brian O'Rourke. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Plus Technology Podcast. I also want to extend our thanks to Josh and the many, many wonderful professionals who've contributed their time and expertise for free for the health club and fitness industry at large. Wouldn't you like your fitness brand, product, or service to be featured on a podcast like this? I know I would. And that's why the Fitness Industry Technology Council, myself, and our companies like Moon Mission Media, Videri Ventures, and Vertimax, among others, have been underwriting the podcast for the last 9 months. Check the show notes for details and consider becoming a sponsor. It's a great way to reach thousands of industry professionals in the fitness and health club space and be a part of educating people on technology adoption and all the opportunities it's going to provide. So please consider joining us here at the podcast, and we look forward to the many series of podcasts ahead. Thanks so much.